Two cops stare at a black woman standing confidently on a busy street, her crisp uniform shining with medals they assume must be fake. She calmly says, "I'm a lieutenant general," but they laugh like she's joking. Without warning, one officer twists her arm, the other barks, "Stop talking back." People around them start recording, sensing the injustice unfolding. And as the cuffs tighten around her wrists, she looks straight at them and says one chilling line. "You just ended your careers." Before we go any further, drop your city or country in the comments. I want to see how far this message travels. Like and subscribe for more justice stories. Lieutenant General Alicia Grant had spent 3 decades serving her country with a quiet strength that didn't need to be announced. Her uniform told her story: 3 silver stars on each shoulder, rows of service ribbons, a combat patch earned in places most people never dared to imagine. But off-duty, she preferred simplicity. No entourage, no spotlight, no special treatment. Today was supposed to be peaceful, a quick visit to a small-town high school to speak with young ROTC students about leadership, discipline, and believing in their own potential. Before heading to the school, she stopped at a corner convenience store for a bottle of water. The town was calm, almost too calm, the kind of place where people stared a little too long at strangers, especially strangers in uniform who didn't look like what they expected. Still, she carried herself with the same quiet grace she always did. As she walked back to her car, she noticed 2 local officers nearby. At first, she thought nothing of it. Routine patrol. Just another day. But their eyes followed her, not with recognition, but suspicion. She could almost feel the judgment rising in the air. She'd seen that look before, the kind that tries to measure your worth before hearing your name. What General Grant didn't know was that this small detour, this ordinary moment, was about to become the spark for a confrontation that would shake the entire department. And it would begin the moment those officers decided they didn't believe who she was. The 2 officers didn't approach her with curiosity, they approached with certainty, the kind that comes from assuming they already knew the truth. Officer Briggs stepped forward first, hand resting on his belt, eyes narrowed as he scanned her uniform like he was looking for flaws. "Ma'am," he said sharply, "that's a military uniform. Mind telling us where you got it?" General Grant stayed calm. "I didn't get it," she replied evenly. "I earned it." But before she could continue, Officer Hale cut her off with a smirk. "Oh, so you're a general now?" "Right." He exchanged a mocking glance with his partner. "We've had a few impersonators around here," he added, stepping closer. "And you fit the profile." She took a slow breath, refusing to let their tone shake her. "My name is Lieutenant General Alicia Grant. I'm here to—" Briggs raised his hand. "I didn't ask for a speech. I asked for ID. And don't get smart with us." A few bystanders paused, sensing trouble. Phones came out silently. General Grant maintained her composure. "Officer, you're making a mistake. If you'll let me—" "Enough," Hale snapped. "You're resisting." Her eyebrows lifted. Resisting what? That was the moment they decided to escalate, and everything began to spiral. Officer Briggs didn't wait for an answer. He grabbed General Grant's wrist and twisted it behind her back with a force that made nearby witnesses gasp. Officer Hale stepped in immediately, barking commands loud enough for everyone on the street to hear. "Hands behind your back. Now. Stop resisting." But she wasn't resisting. She stood perfectly still, eyes calm, voice steady. "Officer, I am giving you no threat. You need to release me immediately." Her words only fueled their anger. Hale scoffed. "Look at her, talking back like she owns the place." He leaned closer, his voice dripping with condescension. "Generals don't walk around small towns without security. Try harder next time." Briggs tightened his grip. "Impersonating a military officer is a federal crime. You're done." At that, murmurs rippled through the growing crowd. A teenage boy recording said softly, "Bro, she looks real. Look at her medals." Another woman added, "I think she is a general." But the officers ignored the whispers. They shoved her toward the patrol car, securing the cuffs so tight they dug into her skin. She winced but didn't break. "I'm asking for my phone," she said calmly. "You've taken unlawful action. I need to make a call." Hale laughed. "Yeah? And who exactly are you calling? The Marines?" Before she could respond, her phone slipped from her pocket and hit the pavement. A bystander, a middle-aged woman, quickly picked it up and held it out. "She asked for this," she said firmly. The officers hesitated, unsure whether to confiscate it or ignore her. The woman, refusing to back down, placed the phone gently into General Grant's bound hands. With her wrists cuffed behind her, General Grant tilted the phone toward her voice and spoke clearly. "Hey Siri, call Pentagon Operations." The phone chimed. A few seconds later, a professional voice filled the air on speaker. "Pentagon Military Operations. Please state your name for verification." General Grant lifted her head, her voice unwavering. "Lieutenant General Alicia Marie Grant, ID number 417 Bravo." Silence fell. The crowd stopped breathing. The officers froze mid-movement. And then the voice on the phone replied loud enough for the whole street to hear. "Identity confirmed. Lieutenant General Grant, how can we assist?" Everything changed. The moment the Pentagon operator confirmed her identity, Officer Briggs and Officer Hale froze like statues. Their bravado vanished instantly, replaced by disbelief and panic. Oh no," Briggs whispered under his breath, stepping back as if the air itself had turned against him. Hale's face went pale, and he glanced nervously at the growing crowd. Within minutes, a sleek black SUV convoy pulled up, sirens off but imposing, carrying military police officers sent straight from the Pentagon. They moved with precision, unflinching authority. One of them stepped forward and immediately unclipped the cuffs from General Grant's wrists. She flexed her fingers, calm and composed, and looked directly at the two local officers. "You have no idea what you just did," she said, voice calm yet carrying the weight of decades of service. "Not only did you handcuff a U.S. general, but you also humiliated yourself in front of the public." Briggs opened his mouth, but no words came out. Hale muttered something incoherent and sank into the nearest sidewalk curb, staring at the ground. The bystanders' whispers grew into audible shock. Phones continued recording. This wasn't just a correction, it was public humiliation captured live. The military police quickly secured the two officers, instructing them to remain silent. The crowd stepped back, murmuring, some cheering, some shaking their heads. General Grant kept her composure, standing tall, her uniform immaculate, her dignity intact. "Your actions today were illegal," she continued, her tone unwavering. "Unlawful detention, excessive force, discrimination, these are federal offenses. You will be held accountable." One of the MPs turned to the local police chief, who had arrived too late to intervene. His attempts to excuse the officers fell flat. Public attention was now laser-focused on the misstep, and the Pentagon's involvement ensured there would be no cover-up. For the first time, the officers realized that this was not a misunderstanding they could smooth over. Their careers, carefully built over years, were now teetering on the edge. And all because they underestimated a black woman who had earned every star on her uniform. The twist had landed, the victim of public humiliation had just reversed the power entirely, and justice was now in motion. The military police officers led Briggs and Hale to the patrol car, their movements controlled and professional, while General Grant stood tall, surveying the street that had become a stage for accountability. Cameras continued to roll, capturing every moment, and the crowd couldn't believe the transformation, the aggressors now powerless, the general in complete command. She addressed the two local officers directly, her voice steady and unwavering. "I've served this country for 30 years, she began. "And today, you didn't just disrespect me, you disrespected every uniform, every veteran, and every citizen who trusts law enforcement to act with honor." Briggs stammered, trying to justify his actions. We didn't know." "You didn't know," she repeated, each word precise and cutting. "You handcuffed an officer of the United States military without cause. That is not ignorance, that is negligence. That is misconduct. The local police chief had arrived, red-faced and defensive, attempting to intervene. These officers were just following procedure, he shouted. The crowd murmured in disbelief. Phones were raised everywhere, live streams broadcasting the confrontation to social media in real time. General Grant didn't flinch. Procedure does not justify unlawful detention, harassment, or abuse of power. You are accountable. The Pentagon, military, police, and federal authorities are already reviewing your actions. The officers' faces went pale. Hale looked around helplessly, realizing the magnitude of the consequences. Briggs swallowed hard, the weight of public humiliation and impending legal repercussions pressing down on him. Within minutes, news crews arrived, having been tipped off by witnesses who had recorded everything. Live coverage amplified the shock. The two officers who had thought themselves untouchable were now the subjects of nationwide scrutiny. Pentagon lawyers arrived to document the incident and begin the process of formal charges. General Grant, calm and composed, walked to the ROTC students she had come to inspire, the crowd parting respectfully. Every step she took emphasized dignity, authority, and the unwavering power of truth. The culmination of events left no room for doubt. The officers who had sought to humiliate and intimidate were now publicly exposed, professionally endangered, and facing the full weight of accountability. Justice had arrived in its most visible and undeniable form, and the general's presence ensured that the lesson would resonate far beyond this small town street. For the first time that day, the crowd cheered, not for spectacle, but for justice served. The fallout was swift. Briggs and Hale were immediately suspended pending investigation, and within days, both were officially fired for misconduct, unlawful detention, and abuse of authority. The Pentagon released a public statement confirming the general's identity and praising her composure, professionalism, and courage in the face of blatant injustice. General Grant returned to the ROTC school, greeted by saluting students and cheering faculty. She smiled warmly, every gesture calm yet commanding, embodying the principles she had spent decades upholding. To stand for truth, even when those in power try to silence you, is the real measure of courage, she told the students. Never let fear or authority intimidate you. Justice is always stronger than abuse. The street where the confrontation had occurred became a symbol, a reminder that accountability can arrive at any moment, that dignity is stronger than arrogance, and that one person's calm conviction can topple injustice and inspire countless others to do the same. General Grant left that day, not just victorious, but a beacon of unshakable integrity.